evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching the biggest exclusive. I'm Ridhima, Bhatnagar. I was bereft of words. My faith in justice is shaken. This is what Bilkis Bano had said when she had heard about the remission granted to convicts who gang raped her when she was 21. Her trauma of 20 years, she says, was washed all over her once again. Now, the Supreme Court today issued notice to the Gujarat government and the centre over the pleas challenging the remission granted to 11 life convicts in the case of Bilkis Bano's gang rape and murder of her family members. The apex court also posted the matter for hearing after 2 weeks. The remission and the consequent release of 11 convicts on the 15th of August this year from jail under the Gujarat government's remission policy has sparked a debate on the issue of relief in heinous cases. The plea in the apex court was filed by CPIM leader Subhashini Ali, journalist Revati Lal and activist Roop Rekha Rani. The 11 convicts walked out of the jail on the 15th of August after the Gujarat government allowed their release under its remission policy. Remember, they had completed more than 15 years in jail. Bilkis Bano was 21 years old and 5 months pregnant when she was gang raped while fleeing the violence that broke out after the Godhra train burning. Among those killed was her 3-year-old daughter. From Nirbhaya to Bilkis Bano, have we really failed our women? And the larger question is, will this remission actually set a dangerous precedent? Also, more importantly, what will this mean as far as the future cases are concerned? I want to begin the show by first bringing in Shobha Gupta. She is Bilkis Bano's lawyer, to understand Bilkis's mindset and what are the options that they're working with. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us here at CNN News 18. I'm 100% sure the last couple of days haven't been easy, neither for you, neither for Bilkis. Today, a notice has been issued to the Gujarat government and the centre. How do you see the development?
Reaction is what, like they have issued notice in the petition. I'm happy that people have reached out to Supreme Court as a society. It can be any ABCD. And court has taken good cognizance of the issue and issued notice without going into the objection of maintainability and other things, the sheer technicalities.
True. Ma'am, before I get into what has been the conversation that you've had with Bilkis and what are the options that you're working with, I just want to understand a technical point. Have you or the client seen the remission copy?
None of us could have laid our hands to that policy source.
Okay. So I want to now understand, ma'am, on a larger issue, what do you have to say today to those who were on the panel who in fact granted the remission?
No, Gujarat government has not taken any objection. It was the counsel for the convicts who was appearing in advance without notice, and he raised preliminary objections. So to say, they are third parties, the strangers. He never heard about any stranger coming in a criminal justice system and so many other things. That is subject to what individuals' knowledge about subject and other things. But I'm not referring knowledge otherwise. I'm saying he said he has never heard of, that's why I'm saying so. But Gujarat government and the central government both were not there as per my understanding, subject to correction. Like I could notice they were appearing.
Okay. I will come back to that issue and what are the conversations that you're having with your client and how do you see the next 2 weeks. But I also want to go back to when this remission actually was announced. Initially, the basis of this remission, what we're understanding was quote-unquote good behavior as far as these convicts were concerned. What do you think this sets the stage for? What kind of a precedence does it set?
Even that we do not know. The impression is what we are getting from some official, senior official from the state of Gujarat. He came and he gave some bite to, I believe, some print media or where he was noticed saying this. But as far as record goes, black and white, have we able to know what were the reasons? We actually don't know. I'm not sure about good conduct and other things, but certainly good conduct, like has this case that all 11 became saint by now. The good conduct to be seen with the actual conduct, the crime itself. was an egregious nature of crime they have committed.
True.
And now that cannot simply be ignored on the face of the fact that 14 years have been gone by and they have improved like saints to be welcomed back to the society. You have to look into, is 18 years, 14 years a sufficient punishment for the crime they have committed, the nature of the crime, the damage they have caused, the kind of what all they have done with Bilkis and her family. She is living minus all of the family around. Can you imagine that somebody to survive in this world without having any of the family, losing them like that, losing her child like that? Given the facts this matter has, can good conduct alone plus the period undergone, that is minimum period as per the policy. That's not the maximum period. They said minimum 14 years.
Yeah.
So would that be sufficient enough? What has actually prevailed over to the committee? We have to see the remission order.
Right. None of us can ever imagine what Bilkis continues to go through. You've, of course, been speaking to your client over the last couple of days. What is her frame of mind?
See, Bilkis, she has, it's like ups and down kind of thing. And the time when you came to realize, okay, now it's over and I can live my life, I can collect myself back and live. Suddenly this came.
Yeah.
She's learning to deal with it. It's something came so out of blue, you don't, immediately learn to deal with it. She has to fight it out. We have to fight it out for her. Neither I can, as an individual, as a lawyer by profession, as a lawyer of Bilkis, live with this order. Not Bilkis can live with this order. None of us should live with this order, for that, as a matter of fact. So far, so good. She is happy that she is getting support. She is not left alone as a society. Society has not, their hands, so to say, no, that's your case, handle it whatever you want to. People are standing around her. And if you have come to court, that gives a kind of not only hope but confidence that you are not alone in this dark night, a long, lone path.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you, rather, you all are taking this cause further. The reactions I've seen, people, you from this side of the world, this pillar, one of the pillar of democracy, you people are standing with her, you are raising the voice, you're putting up the cause. I can see the pain in eyes and the voice. And I'm so happy that you are not letting this issue go.
Absolutely, ma'am. We really appreciate you taking out the time and speaking to us here at CNN News 18. So there we heard from the lawyer of Bilkis Bano. Before I bring in my other guests, we want to play out this report of the case timeline and what actually this remission means. 21 years after a pregnant Bilkis Bano was raped amid the horrors of the 2002 Godhra riots, the ghosts of that nightmare return. On the 15th of August, 11 men sentenced to life imprisonment in 2008 for raping her and murdering 7 members of her family walked out of jail, welcomed with sweets and garlands. After a remission plea by one of the convicts, Radhesham Bhagwan Das Shah was admitted in the Supreme Court this year. The Gujarat government that took up the matter had set up a panel to discuss premature release, and it went by a 1992 policy on the matter. A statement from Bilkis Bano herself said, "How can justice for any woman end like this? I trusted the highest courts in our land, I trusted the system, and I was learning slowly to live with my trauma." She urged the Gujarat government to undo the harm. And with it, politics. Opposition parties lashed out. Rahul Gandhi tweeted, questioning the centre's Nari Shakti pitch.
कौन सी अमृत उत्सव की मिसाल भारत के प्रधानमंत्री दे रहे हैं कि उनके गुजरात में भाजपा की सरकार है और एक महिला को जिसको 11 लोगों ने उसका रेप किया, जो प्रेग्नेंट थी, 3.5 साल की बच्ची, उसकी बेटी को उसके सामने उसकी हत्या कर दी, उसके 4 परिवार के लोगों को कत्ल कर दिया। ये कौन सा है? ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जरूर कहा था एग्जामिन करो, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा नहीं था ना कि छोड़ दो बोल के।
Hearing Bilkis Bano's plea against the remission today, the Supreme Court has asked for the Gujarat government's response also asking the petitioners to implead those who've been granted remission as parties in the matter. But the big question erupts on sentence remission in cases of gruesome crime, inconsistencies in policies. Let me also now bring in our guest to take this discussion forward. We have lawyer Abha Singh, we have women's rights activist Yogita Bhayana, and from the Congress we have Mahima Singh. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Abha Singh, I want to begin with you first as far as the legality of the questions that were raised and as far as the case is concerned. One of the questions that was raised by Justice Rastogi was the question, is under Gujarat rules, are these convicts entitled for remission or not? So I first want to understand, is there a past precedent for cases like these?
You know, this remission policy 1992 was prevalent at the time of conviction, and Supreme Court has followed its judgment that was in state of Haryana versus Jagdish, where it was held that the policy applicable at the time of conviction must be considered for deciding an application for premature release. So not only that, Supreme Court again in Kehar Singh versus Union of India 1989, it clearly said that remission should be given because it should not be, end of the day, it should not be a black hole, and it talked of principles of reformation. Also in state of Haryana versus Mahendra Singh, that was a 2007 case where the Supreme Court talked of fundamental rights of the prisoners also. And so there have been cases where remission have been given, be it for 15th August or 26th January. But the issue here is that the technicality on which they gave was, they said the 1992 policy was effective. But after Nirbhaya 2013, when the new policy came, we said for heinous offences, for issues like rape and death, remission should not be given. Now, what does law say? Rule of law says justice should not only be happening, but it should look to be happening.
True.
Here, this is an heinous offence where the woman was raped, her little child murdered. So, can you give remission in such a case? That is the issue. But when the court, as you say, but the court also came and said, they in and out, remission is granted to convicts of life sentence. What is the exception? So court will have to see now, the Supreme Court bench will see whether this remission is within the parameters of law and whether what is the exception. But my question is that in such a heinous offense, when you talk of women's safety, when you talk of women empowerment, is it justified? Because even the judge who gave the sentence, he was not consulted. When the law says, when the CRPC says that the judge has to be looked into, his views have to be taken, the merits of the case have to be seen. So how can you give this message to the society that a rapist, a murderer is given remission, and that too on 26th January, on 15th August? This is what we, the freedom fighters, fought for. I think the message gone has wrong, and the court has to not just see whether the 1992 policy, he could have got remission. You have to go beyond that. There is something called justice, which has to be looked into.
True. I will talk to you about the 1992 policy and the larger messaging that is being sent out. But I quickly also want to understand, if you heard my conversation that I was having with Shobha Gupta, Bilkis Bano's lawyer, she is saying neither her or the client have even seen a copy as far as the remission is concerned. Is this usually the protocol?
See, of course, the person, the victim, should have been the first person to have got it. In fact, if it was done in the right manner, the people who were on the committee, they should have met the victim, taken her viewpoint. Is she feeling safe? Again and again, she's saying she's not safe.
True.
And yes, she should have got it because ultimately it is her life at stake. It is her safety at stake. But nobody has seen the remission order because what we are told and what we see from the sources that there were the committee members who were there, would talk about it. So I think that is why they've not given out. But yes, the victim has a right to know and she should have been consulted.
Absolutely. Yogita, I want to bring you in. I know you've been fighting for many cases and causes like these. When we hear from the legal team of Bilkis Bano, and it breaks your heart to hear this, that she had just begun to live her life without a sense of fear, and then something like this comes in, it takes her 20 years back. Aren't we then taking 2 steps forward but 20 steps backward?
I think not 20 steps back. I think we have taken 2,000 steps back. With this kind of a judgment, I mean, with this kind of a bizarre kind of action of releasing them and also celebrating their release is like bloat. It's a complete bloat on justice system. I fail to understand, because we fought Nirbhaya. For Nirbhaya, when we went for review petition or appeal for to expedite, the case in Supreme Court, which was pending for 4 years, it took us sweat and blood with the mother, to get it to the hearing level in Supreme Court. And in this particular case, within few months, the remission petition has been sanctioned.
Yeah.
Where do you see this, in the world? And not only this Nirbhaya case, there is another Nirbhaya from Uttarakhand where I'm taking up very, very, how do I say, aggressively. We've been writing to Supreme Court to take this up. So I feel hurt. And to be honest, I'm glad on one fact that irrespective of political support, parties, irrespective of religion, I am poured in with calls from across India, across globe, to support Bilkis Bano. That's the light of the day I see. Otherwise, judicial system, I don't know the procedure. I'm not a lawyer.
True.
I depend on the wisdom of other, like Abhaji and all. But I fail to understand. No matter what kind of a legal system we have, this is not done. They have to recall it or whatever. They have to take this back. Otherwise, you will see protests coming very soon, because I am telling you, this is a very, very dark spot in our entire history. This case should not have seen this kind of a day.
Yeah, because the larger message that is being sent out, at least optically, for people who want to indulge themselves in these heinous crimes is that even if you get convicted, the law will possibly support you for you to be able to come out and then have a hero's welcome. Mahima Singh, I want to bring you in, and I actually agree with what Yogita is saying, that at least it's good to see, political parties keeping their differences aside. But what is the responsibility of state governments in cases like these?
We must come to that and we must talk about that. But before that, a very relevant question that I ask all my debates, Ridhima, is that where are the BJP spokespersons? Is it not more relevant than ever for them to be on these panels now than ever to answer the very relevant questions that the public is asking them? Because on the very day that these convicts were remitted, we heard the Prime Minister talk very high of, the respect for women and how the conduct towards women should be, and against the misogyny. That's a contrast. That's a paradox. However, I'll come back to your question, because yes, the state government has a very pertinent responsibility in such cases. But when we hear from the apex court, when we hear that merely a horrific crime, it is a very sorry state of affairs, Ridhima. I'll have to say that. Although we have heard the CJI retort it in strong words, we have we have the women of the world coming together. We have the citizens of this country coming together against what has happened with Bilkis. But the government of Gujarat has acted with utmost irresponsibility in not handing over the remission notice, the remission order. To the either of the advocates. I was listening to a debate yesterday where there were advocates of the convicts and Shobha Gupta herself was a part of that panel, and I could see the helplessness of the advocate for the convicts, because he did not have the order and yet he was sitting there to defend it. And what to do, because the BJP spokespersons are not there. And why are not there? Let me answer that as well. Because these 11 convicts, Ridhima, it is shameful that were the members of the BJP on the day they committed that crime. And it is no wonder that the Gujarat elections are around the corner when they have been remitted of their punishment.
Okay. The reason I wanted to have an all-women panel today is because, as I said, I want to keep the political differences aside today. What is the message that we're sending out to women of this country? Before I bring in Yogita back, I want to ask Abha Singh another technical question. These convicts that we're talking about who were given this remission, these were people who were given 2 life imprisonment. So when a remission is granted, what precedent does it set then with people who have multiple life imprisonments?
But the issue here is that the appropriate government, section 433 of the CRPC, the court says that the appropriate government may, without the consent of the person sentenced, commute a sentence of death for any any other punishment provided by the Indian Penal Code, a sentence of imprisonment for life for a term not exceeding 14 years. So when this 14 years comes in, that is the technical age. They say 14 years, 5 months they've completed. So they would say that we went by the law of the land, and that is why Justice Rastogi, who was in the bench, said that day in and out remission is granted to convicts of life. So here, because the 1992 policy, which was prevalent, and the appropriate government, the Supreme Court had said, is government of Gujarat. So they said we have gone by the law of the time, which was prevalent. But again, as I am saying, that it was justice which has to be seen. And Justice Sujata Manohar, he was a reputed, who has been a Supreme Court judge, says that this shows dilution of the rule of law. So that is what has come in, the justice factor. And no wonder Supreme Court, the Chief Justice Ramanna had to come in and say, no, we only said that you consider. Nowhere did we say that you give remission. So going by the law, Gujarat government is saying that as per the CRPC, we have followed the law of the land. But the issue is that you have to see the thing in totality. Why you have SLPs, why you have writs, because end of the day, the constitution is very clear. You have to give justice. You have to ensure safety and security, which this order is giving a message that if you may commit rape, you may commit murder, but if you have a good battery of lawyers, you can puncture loopholes in the code, then you can be scot-free.
Absolutely. And Yogita, it was not just the remission which caused so much anger and frustration with men and women across the country. It was also the sheer audacity, for the lack of any better word. When they came out, they were given a hero's welcome. So what kind of a mindset are we then reflecting?
It's absolutely.
We are creating more unsafe environment. We work hard to create a safe environment for women, and these kind of gestures, bizarre, disastrous gestures, I think it kills the whole spirit of people like us, who are working day and night for prevention. I personally written to Prime Minister on this. President, who's supposed to be a lady, maybe they also they should, pitch in and do something about to CGI also. But I am really hurt on one fact that our Women and Child Minister, who's so vocal on other issues, is mum. She should make a statement, irrespective of, as I said, political differences. She definitely should come forward and at least break her silence now. And also, what Abaji was also saying that, justice has to be delivered. If it was capital punishment, you were reviewing it for life imprisonment, okay, we could have given benefit of doubt. You cannot release these monsters. They are monsters. No matter what law prevails in this country, I don't understand that kind of a law. And within 6 months, you are hearing that plea and giving them that kind of a benefit of doubt. I'm so sorry. These monsters cannot be reformed. No matter what ground you give. And we need to see that. We need to see the remission plea.
So that is the grey area, and that is why I wanted to start the show by understanding from the legal team of Bilkis Bano if they in fact even have seen that order copy or not, but unfortunately they say they have no access to it. So we'll really have to see what happens over the course of the next 2 weeks. We really hope there is some sort of safety and a messaging that is sent out to women that the law stands by their side. Unfortunately, I will have to leave the conversation there. I appreciate all my guests taking our time and joining us here this evening. We're now shifting our focus to some other details coming in. And this is as far as the death of Sonali Phogat is concerned. We are now understanding an FIR says that the staff has been charged with the murder of Sonali Phogat. Remember, initially what looked like a case of cardiac arrest had multiple questions being raised by family members of Sonali Phogat who said there is possibility of some sort of foul play. Now we're understanding the FIR says that staff has been charged with the murder of Sonali Phogat. Herman Gomes is getting us all those details. So Herman, first, there was a section that was added, which is as far as murder is concerned. Now the staff has also been charged with murder. What has led to all of this?
Right from day one when the family arrived, they said that they had not been informed of Mrs. Phogat having being in Goa for a film shoot, which the two of her staff members had said that she was here for only a film shoot. But upon investigation, it came to light that the hotel rooms where the three of them stayed were only booked for a period of 2 days. So therefore, the suspicions were running high as to why on a film shoot in Goa would only hotel rooms would be booked only for a period of 2 days. And who are these staff members? Two of them by the name. One is Mr. Sudhir Sangwan, and the next is by the name of Mr. Sukhwinder. Now, upon that, what the family had been saying is that this was in fact a murder. It was a pre-planned conspiracy, and therefore she was then brought down to Goa. What we're also told, and this is what the family alleges, Ridhima, is that one of the accused is in fact has some high-profile contacts with a certain Haryana former minister. And now the FIR that has been accessed by CNN News 18, it states, and I quote, on the DTPO mentioned above, the above noted accused persons with their common intention committed the murder of the complainant's sister, namely Mrs. Sonali Phogat, who is the daughter of Sanjay Phogat, aged 43 years. Hence, an offence has been registered under Section 302, which is punishment of murder with respect to Section 34 of the IPC. So clearly, at this point in time, the family's claims to, so far they've been saying right from the start that there was foul play involved.
True.
And it was not a case of cardiac arrest at what seemed initially. And now what I can tell you, Ridhima, is that in fact one police team from the Anjuna police station in North Goa, under whose jurisdiction the hotel had been coming forth, they have sent one of their police teams to the hotel, and this police team is going to search the hotel rooms of two of these accused. We do know that the post-mortem has been completed today, that the final remains will be taken to Delhi, but the family had right from the start been stated that this was not a normal case of cardiac arrest. Now, besides that, what I can also tell you...
So, as Herman is pointing out, the family had raised a lot of red flags that this doesn't look like a case of cardiac arrest. Now, what we're understanding, the staff of Sonali Phogat, in fact, has been charged with murder. Herman Gomes, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We also now want to shift our focus to the other big story that we're tracking this evening. Hyderabad remains on edge. A suspended BJP MLA, Raja Singh, has been arrested again. He's been booked under the Preventive Detention Act. This action comes after Raja Singh hit out at the Telangana government and Aswaddin Owaisi, accusing them of instigating communal violence. MIM chief Aswaddin Owaisi is under fire for legally representing youth involved in stone pelting across Hyderabad. Over 90 youth were released on Wednesday. The Rapid Action Force has also been stationed at sensitive zones, mainly in the Shalibanda area. Schools in this area and the old city have also been shut. Let's first listen into what Raja Singh had to say before he was detained.
तो मैं आज रिक्स लेकर आपके सामने आ रहा हूं क्योंकि कोर्ट का आदेश था कि मीडिया को अटेंड नहीं करना है, लेकिन वातावरण देखकर मुझे मजबूरन आज आना पड़ा। आज तेलंगाना में कम्युनल वायलेंस होने का रीजन क्या है, मैं आपको बताने की कोशिश करता हूं। मुनव्वर फारूकी, स्टैंड अप कॉमेडियन, एक चिल्लर कॉमेडियन का प्रोग्राम हमारे म्युनिसिपल केटीआर साहब, जो कि मुख्यमंत्री के बेटे हैं, वो प्रोग्राम को सक्सेस करते हैं। मुस्लिम्स वोट बैंक का इन्होंने एक खेल खेला है, क्योंकि अगर इसका कार्यक्रम रद्द होगा तो बीजेपी की फायदा होगा, अगर इसका कार्यक्रम सक्सेस होगा तो टीआरएस को और एमआईएम को फायदा होगा।
Now we're understanding fresh protests have erupted once again in Hyderabad after the arrest of suspended BJP MLA Raja Singh. Supporters of Raja Singh are staging street protests. Look at the visuals that we're putting out on our screens. As we pointed out, Raja Singh was picked up again. He was booked against under the Preventive Detention Act, but now protests have broken out by his supporters. My colleague Swastika Das is now joining us on the broadcast. Swastika, could you first talk to us about where all have these protests broken out?
Well, the protest broke out in Muzamzahi market. This is not very far away from where Charminar is. It's in an area called the Begum Bazaar area. A handful of protesters immediately after Raja Singh was brought here at the Cherlapalli Central Prison. They hit the streets demanding his release and have also hit out at the TRS government as well as the MIM for conspiring against Raja Singh and sending him back in jail. Remember, the contention is not just that, the contention is of booking him under the PD Act, which is a serious act which is leveled against habitual offenders. And in this case, the police says Raja Singh has over 101 cases to his name, and that's why, since he's a habitual offender, almost equal to a rowdy sheeter, he has been brought here at the Cherlapalli Central Prison. Back to you.
Okay, so as Swastika is pointing out, the rearrest of Raja Singh has now led to protests once again in Hyderabad. All of this in the backdrop of a political war of words as well, while the BJP is demanding action from the MIM after a video of their corporator went viral on social media. The MIM is asking questions back from the BJP saying, will a suspension be enough? Swastika Das, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We'll keep tracking those developments. For now, completely out of time. It's a wrap from my side. Plain Speak is up next.